Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this cute herringbone bracelet. So for this project I am using 2mm Delica beads. You will need a wire guard, I have a 4mm jump ring, and a 12mm lobster clasp. Today I'm going to be using green polyester thread to match the beads that I've chosen. As always, I've got my big eye needle, and you're gonna need a sharp pair of scissors. I've got a pair of needle nose pliers, and this part is optional, but I've got this little jump ring opener that I just absolutely love. So I've got my big eye needle threaded up with 2 lengths of the thread that I've chosen. And I've conditioned my thread with beeswax. I made a little video about that. If you want to see how I do that, I will put a little link in the description for you. So to start off, I'm going to pick up 4 of these beads onto my big eye needle. And I'm going to push them down towards the end of my thread. You're going to want to leave yourself at least like a 6 to 8 inch tail on this one. And I'm going to tie these beads into a loop that forms a little square shape. I'm going to double tie that with a surgeon's knot because I do not want these beads getting loose on me. And then we're going to thread back up through 2 of the beads so that we end up with one of our threads, the working thread, facing up, and then the tail thread facing down. Now we can add on more beads. So I'm going to pick up 2 more beads and go up through the same 2 beads that we just did, and that will tack these new 2 beads right on there. That's just called a ladder stitch, and it's used quite a lot in beading. And so I'm going to take another 2 beads and ladder stitch those on as well. And we want to make sure we end up in such a way where our working thread is sticking up to the top and our tail thread is down to the bottom. I'm going to pick up 2 more beads, and instead of ladder stitching them on, this time we're going to go back down through the bead that's right to the right of the one that we are coming out of. Now we're going to go up through the bead to the right of the one we're coming down out of. Pick up 2 more beads, and we're going to put our needle down through the bead to the right of the one that we're coming up out of. Now we're going to pick up 1 bead and thread it up through the last bead that we put on. So that's our basic herringbone stitch. We pick up 2 beads, go down through a bead, up through a bead, pick up 2 beads, down through a bead, pick up 1 bead, and then go up through the last bead that we put on. And we're just going to continue that pattern every row. Pick up 2 beads, down through a bead, up through a bead, pick up 2 beads, pull on 1 bead, and then up through the last bead that you put on. And you do want to make sure that you make these stitches nice and tight so that the herringbone pattern will really show through. And you can see as we put on more and more rows that the beads are kind of laying catty-corner towards each other, and that's where this stitch gets its name, because it looks like a herringbone pattern. So we're just going to continue repeating this pattern for the full length of the bracelet right up until the end. Pick up 2 beads, sew them on, pick up 2 beads, sew them on, pick up 1 bead, sew it on, and the next row the same thing. And you gotta make sure you are making these stitches tight. Yo, nobody wants a loose, sad bracelet. And please forgive me for pulling my work out of frame so many times. The thread keeps getting caught on the tripods and the lights and the camera, and it's so much fun beading right next to little spindly objects for your thread to get caught on. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do 1,000 rows of exactly the same thing, but I will check in with you to show you how the bracelet is progressing along the way. So here is what the bracelet is looking like after a few more rows, and now you can really see how the herringbone pattern is coming out. And I'm going to keep going until I have almost the length that I want with my bracelet. Remember that the lobster clasp and the jump ring and the wire guard are going to add some length to our bracelet as well. And now that I've just almost reached the length that I want my bracelet to be, it's time to start finishing it off. So we're going to pick up 2 beads and add them on like we normally would. And pick up 2 more beads and add those on like we normally would. But now, instead of picking up a single bead and adding it onto the right hand side of our row, we're instead going to go back up through the bead to the left of where we're coming out. And we're going to carry it straight up through the bead that's right above that also. Now we're going to pick up our lobster clasp and thread it down through the 2 beads that are on the left hand side of the one that we're coming out of. And then we're going to take it back up through 2 beads that are on the left hand side of the one we're coming down out of. Now I'm going to make my way around the beads and back through the lobster clasp so we can make sure that this lobster clasp ain't going nowhere. And now that our thread is pointing down out of these top 2 beads, we can start getting ready to tie off. And I'm going to go down through another bead or 2, and then what I'm going to do is put my needle behind the thread bridge between 2 beads, pull my needle through so that there's just a little loop of thread left, put my needle back through that loop, and tighten it so that it tightens a little knot into our work. And as long as you pull it nice and tight, that knot will be hidden right inside of the bead. You will never even know it's there. And then we're going to go straight down through a few more beads, and again we're going to do our little loop trick so that we have another knot. And I like to do this at least twice, sometimes even 3 or 4 times if I really want to make sure that this lobster clasp is not going to come off. And after we put in our last knot, we're going to thread down through a few more beads so that we can make sure our tail is long enough and not too close to our knot when we cut it off. And then we do a little snippety snip. And there we have the lobster clasp side of the bracelet finished, and it's nice and secure. And so we can flip it over and start working on the wire guard side. And we're going to finish this side off just like the last one, except for that instead of a lobster clasp, we're putting on a wire guard instead. So when we put on our wire guard, we're going to go up through one leg of the wire guard, down through the other leg of the wire guard, and then I'm going to loop back around the 4 beads underneath and go back through the wire guard again to make sure that it's not going anywhere. And then just like the last side, we're going to go down through a few beads and use our loop trick to make a knot, and do that at least twice, and then down through another few beads before we cut off. And there we have our bracelet all tied off. The only thing left to do is add our jump ring. And so I'm gonna take my handy dandy awesome little jump ring opener, I still love this thing, and take my needle nose pliers and open up my jump ring, stick my wire guard right on there, and then we can close up our bracelet and have a wearable bracelet. Look at that. Now we have a lovely herringbone bracelet. And obviously you can do this bracelet in whatever color you want. You can mix up the colors and have a bunch of different colors in your bracelet. These are a few of the colors of bracelets that I've made so far. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If it was, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye!